There are moments in life so unexpected that they leave a mark on your heart forever. I never imagined that a single whispered sentence from my neighbor would unravel years of loneliness, regret, and silent pain. What started as an embarrassing moment at my apartment window became the beginning of a second chance I never believed I deserved. If you've ever believed that kindness can heal broken hearts and that life always offers another chance, then you're in the right place. Before we begin, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Dad's Second Chance because every act of kindness helps these stories reach someone who needs them the most. After my divorce, silence became my closest companion. The apartment that once echoed with laughter now felt like an empty shell. Every morning started the same way. I woke up before sunrise, made coffee for one, stared at the untouched second mug that I still couldn't bring myself to throw away, and prepared for another day that looked exactly like the one before it. My son lived across the country with his mother, and although we spoke every weekend, a phone call could never replace watching him grow up. I blamed myself every single day. I blamed the long work hours, the arguments I never ended peacefully, the pride that kept me from apologizing sooner, and the choices that slowly destroyed my family. At 42 years old, I had convinced myself that my best years were over. Across the courtyard lived my neighbor, Emily. She had moved in nearly 6 months earlier. She looked to be in her late 30s and carried herself with a quiet confidence that stood out without demanding attention. Every evening she watered the flowers on her balcony with incredible patience, almost as if she was taking care of something much more fragile than plants. Sometimes she smiled politely when our paths crossed in the hallway. Sometimes she waved while collecting packages. But we had never shared more than a few ordinary greetings. I noticed her because she seemed peaceful, and peace was something I had forgotten existed. One rainy afternoon, while sitting near my window with another untouched cup of coffee, I found myself absent-mindedly watching the rain fall across the courtyard. Emily stepped onto her balcony wearing a comfortable gray sweater, carefully moving flower pots away from the edge before the storm grew stronger. I wasn't staring at her because of attraction alone. I was staring because there was something deeply calming about the way she moved. She looked like someone who had survived storms before and had learned not to fear them anymore. For the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about my failures. I was simply watching someone quietly care for life. Then she looked directly toward my window. Our eyes met. I immediately turned away, embarrassed beyond words. My face burned with shame. I felt like an awkward teenager caught doing something foolish instead of a grown man who should have known better. I stood up quickly, pretending to organize books that didn't need organizing, hoping she hadn't noticed. The next morning, as fate would have it, we reached the apartment elevator at exactly the same time. My heart raced as I stepped inside beside her. The silence felt impossibly loud until she looked at me with the faintest smile and softly whispered, "If you want to look, just ask." I nearly stopped breathing. Every apology I had prepared disappeared from my mind. I expected anger or discomfort, but instead there was kindness in her eyes. She wasn't mocking me. She wasn't accusing me. She had somehow understood that what she saw wasn't disrespect but loneliness. My face turned bright red as I apologized anyway, explaining that I hadn't meant to make her uncomfortable. She listened patiently before quietly admitting that she knew exactly what loneliness looked like because she had lived with it herself. That conversation lasted less than 2 minutes, but it changed everything. Over the following weeks, our casual greetings slowly became real conversations. We started meeting accidentally in the courtyard, then intentionally during evening walks around the neighborhood. She told me she had lost her husband to cancer 5 years earlier. Since then, she had built walls around her heart so high that almost no one could climb them. She wasn't looking for romance. She wasn't trying to replace anyone. She was simply trying to learn how to smile again without feeling guilty. For the first time in years, I met someone who understood grief without needing it explained. We talked about ordinary things that somehow became extraordinary. Favorite childhood memories. Terrible cooking disasters. Books we never finished. Songs that reminded us of people we missed. We laughed over burnt dinners, shared homemade cookies with elderly neighbors, and even spent weekends volunteering at a local community center where single parents received help finding work and childcare. Watching exhausted fathers playing with their children reminded me how much I missed my own son. Emily noticed the sadness that crossed my face whenever children were nearby. She never asked questions immediately. Instead, she gave me space until one afternoon I finally admitted how guilty I felt for not being the father I wanted to be. She didn't tell me I was a good man. She didn't say everything would magically work out. Instead, she quietly reminded me that children rarely need perfect parents. They need parents who keep showing up. Those words stayed with me. That evening I called my son, not because it was the scheduled weekend call but simply because I missed him. We talked for nearly 2 hours about school, baseball, funny videos, and his dream of becoming an engineer. Before hanging up, he surprised me by saying he wished we talked more often. I cried after the call ended. Not because I was sad. Because hope had finally returned. Months passed, and little by little, my relationship with my son grew stronger. We played online games together every week. We watched the same movies while video chatting. During school holidays he visited me, and together Emily, my son, and I explored parks, museums, and little cafes around town. She never tried to replace his mother or force herself into our lives. She simply became someone who cared. One afternoon my son quietly asked me if Emily made me happy. I looked at her across the park as she laughed while helping children fly colorful kites against the bright blue sky. For the first time in many years, I answered honestly. Yes. Not because she had rescued me. Not because she had fixed my broken life. But because she reminded me that broken lives can still grow beautiful futures. Looking back, I often think about that awkward moment by the window. Had I hidden behind embarrassment forever, I might have missed the greatest friendship of my life. Sometimes our biggest fears become the doorway to our greatest blessings. Sometimes one kind sentence is enough to change someone's entire future. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your family and friends, leave a comment below, and subscribe to Dad's Second Chance. Your support allows these heartfelt stories to reach people who may be struggling with loneliness, grief, or the hope of finding another beginning. Special request, comment below with the words, "Everyone deserves a second chance," if you believe kindness can change someone's life forever. Today, when I stand at my window, I no longer see loneliness staring back at me. I see flowers blooming on the balcony across the courtyard. I see my son laughing during weekend visits. I see a future that once seemed impossible. Most importantly, I see proof that life doesn't always announce its miracles with grand gestures. Sometimes they arrive quietly, hidden inside an awkward moment, carried by a gentle whisper that simply says, "If you want to look, just ask." And sometimes, that whisper becomes the beginning of a brand new life.